It's working now. Outstanding. Okay. So, John, thank you for the heads up. We're going to start this live stream again. Welcome in. This is all in the charts. And what I was saying to you guys is a couple things. One, I was talking about how thrilling it is to wake up first thing in the morning, want to get to the charts, go live. And Windows has performed an update. So all of your windows that you had open are closed out, and you have to log back into everything. As well as, sometimes your settings change. I just fucking love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. The other thing that I was sharing with you, now that my audio is working, is that as I have shared with you on prior live streams, I am considering going live at different times for at least half of the week to connect with different parts of my audience. And so in the mornings when I do live stream first thing in the morning, it's going to be earlier than this. It's not going to be at 6:20 right now a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be more so closer to 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I'm glad to be able to connect in earlier in the morning, and hopefully I'll get a few people connecting in because today is Thursday. It's questions. John, if you have any TA questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But one of the things I had tweeted out earlier this morning, one good immediate way to determine if a large daily move is legit or a head fake is to see how price responds accordingly the preceding day, okay? So if you get, for example, in your altcoin, a lot of times we see huge runs up on news and then a huge dump, okay, a sell the news event. So you ideally, if you're seeing a 20% move in a token, you don't want to see it dump by 15% the next day. It's not really what you want to see, right? Now, you would expect some sort of a sell-off most of the time. But in the case here, if we just look at the daily candlestick, you can see we had this huge move up from 61 all the way to 66, right? So it's good right now that we're seeing sort of an indecision candle. Now, as I had pointed out yesterday, I was expecting, and I still am expecting, some sort of a retrace down closer to this level at 63.8 before we continue moving up. But it is, at least for the moment right now, good to see that we're seeing such good, strong reaction that we're even holding 65.6 right now at the moment, right? But we'll have to see how this plays out accordingly in the next several days to a week here. The other thing that's good to see on the 12-hour, you guys know I like to focus on the 12-hour a lot. What we've now gotten, okay, and I've talked about this compressed price action in here. We were seeing a compression, and eventually we would see some sort of a decision forming in here, whether we went down or up. The other thing now that we've started to move up in price, it's causing, in particular, the 50 simple moving average, this purple line here, to begin to curl up, which is what we want to see, okay? We don't want to see a death cross on the 12-hour. If you've been following me for a while, the historical significance of a death cross on the 12-hour, in particular when we start to see those moving averages start to slant down. So it's good that we're starting to see the moving averages continuing to churn up. What else are we seeing in the rest of the market here? Something else that is interesting to see. Solana is holding up quite nicely. So not only did we see a huge move up yesterday, we moved up from 140 all the way up to nearly 160. We're now seeing continued follow through for the day. So very, very, very nice to see. And you can see for the week, really want to focus on those higher time frames to see more so from a trend stabilization standpoint where we're at. The higher highs and higher lows continue to come in. Again, when we were in that 120 region, that was your opportunity to reload based on areas of price confluence down there. So Solana is seeing some nice follow through. Any other tokens that are really interesting to see here? One thing we haven't assessed in a little bit We haven't taken a look at traditional markets in a bit. So let's take a look. We may not get a TA Q&A today. I'll wait for your TA questions to drop in the comments. Until then, I will continue charting. So right now, you can see on the S&P, we're at new all-time highs. We're all the way up 5,300. This run is not done, in my opinion. 5,300 is nowhere near the top in this market. So we'll have to see where we eventually top out. But you can see the MACD is just preparing for another positive cross. So why do I say that? Not only is the MACD on the S&P on the weekly beginning to curl back up, but you can see the histogram to the downside here. Okay, we're starting to minimize and go towards those lighter red indications. So that is signs that the MACD looks like it wants to cross up. The RSI looks really healthy. We're sitting at 70. I know my head is blocking the way, but we're sitting just shy of 70. We're at 69. And the stochastic RSI has a positive cross up. We're well above 20, so that's looking good. John, I'm going to get to your question. Thank you for the TA question. We'll get to Yearn Finance. I haven't heard of Yearn Finance in a long time. You know, Yearn Finance was a really popular token back in 2020, 21. I haven't heard of that one in a while. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ real quick. I'm sure it's doing very well as well. Again, the NASDAQ is setting new all-time highs. Again, I have been here saying since late 22, melt up before melt down. And we have not seen the true melt up, in my opinion. Let me not jump around here. When you start to see that euphoria truly set in, that's when you're going to see your mass news coverage, and everyone's excited about the market, and everyone thinks that they can't make a mistake by jumping in at current prices, and that's when the market will melt down. Now, again, something we're going to revisit at some point pretty shortly. This time period here, based on history, okay, between March of this year and October of this year, this represents a historical time period under which we can expect for the Federal Reserve to begin to decrease interest rates. Now, when they start to signal that they're decreasing interest rates, it's not a sign that you immediately need to jump out of the stock market and your investments in crypto. That's not what it's signaling. But it's a huge caution flag that if we haven't topped, we're getting very close to topping. And we'll spend more time talking about that. We spent time in the past talking about it. But we'll spend more time talking about it now that we're getting close to that time period. Because what it is telling you more than likely, and we'll have to assess where the market is at, it is a huge indication. More than likely, when they begin to decrease interest rates, my educated guess based on history, and we'll take a closer look at this, like I said, is that once they signal that they're decreasing interest rates, the market's going to be very close to topping out. We may have a few more months left in us, several months, but we're going to be very close. So let's take a look at Yearn Finance. This is one we have not evaluated in a very long time. I think I have a safe chart for that one, but I'd rather just start with something fresh. Maybe we have something here. No, we do not. So this is one that has a decent amount of price data here. I'm actually going to condense the price data. I'm going to go to a 2-week on Yearn Finance, ticker symbol YFI. All right, price indicators. We can see the stochastic RSI starting to trend down. We're below 20, so we want to see this one get back above 20. The MACD on the 2-week is in danger of crossing down, and the relative strength index is oversold at 45. But price action is king, so let's kind of assess what's going on here. So one of the things I would point out in this chart, there are general lower lows and lower highs coming in. This essentially is a double top right here. Okay. We're kind of coiling up here. Now, some people might point to this and say you have a bear flag, right? You've got a pole and you've got a pennant. Now, the issue I have with that is the technical target on this would make no sense. Because if we actually drew the technical target, it would probably take us to 0 or below. So we're not going to draw the technical target. I don't think drawing a bear pennant here makes sense. But we do have price coiling up in this triangular formation at the moment. Okay, so that's one thing that I would point out. But that aside, what I would focus on are the higher lows coming in. Okay, so we do have higher lows coming in. Right there, I'll draw it right there. The higher lows, but I want to focus on, more importantly, where the areas of price resistance are here. So we'll actually start off with resistance since I drew this here. So in terms of resistance on this chart, oh, that's beautiful. We have a major area of resistance right around, looks like 11,000. We'll call it 11,300. We'll just round it. 11,300 and 14,300. Okay, so those are two major areas of resistance. Another area of resistance I'll give you, kind of like this one right here. You can see, and the reason I say that is you can see the area, the bodies. I love when the bodies touch and you got a wick and you got more bodies touching here. We almost have a wick here. That's around, and that's close to a $10,000 psychological level. It's at 9,900 and just over 9,930. So that's another good area. Now, in terms of areas of support that we want to see hold, you can see $6,000 is an area I would hone in on. There's really a region. I would say right around this 57,000. 57,000. We wish we were up at 57,000. 5,700 to 6,100 is an area, a region of support. Also, John, let's take a look at lower time frame, see if we can discern anything. Now, keep in mind, when I've drawn these areas of price confluence, it was on a higher time frame. So it may not necessarily be indicative of when we go to a lower time frame, more so of what you're seeing. And that's a very key point to point out to you guys. If you haven't heard me share this with you before, your areas of price confluence, okay, when you're drawing areas of resistance or areas of support, that is going to be indicative of the time frame that you're looking at. So the areas of price confluence that I come up with on a 2-week chart is going to be different than if I went to a 3-day chart. To further highlight that, if I went to a 1-hour chart, the areas of price confluence, given that it's such a low time frame, a micro view, is going to be much different than going to a monthly chart. Okay, that should make sense. Now, if we go to a 3-day chart, is there anything? RSI is building with price. Let's go to a daily. Yeah, not really seeing too much. So that's really what I see, John. Not really too strong of a chart. My one, I don't like to use the word hope, but if I was in this project, I guess you could say hope. My hope would be the higher lows continue to follow track. So I'm fine. I mean, I'm fine if price comes all the way down here to 5,700. Don't lose sight of the fact that we're continuing to build these higher lows. But ultimately, price really isn't going to get exciting until it starts to break out about 14,300. Once we start to break 14,300, come back to the channel, we can take a look at price. We could take a look at price action, but really, you know, you're talking about next running up towards like the $19,000 area, somewhere up in here. So thank you for the question. All right, other things that I want to take a look at here. Let's see. How about crypto AI? You know what? Actually, before we get into crypto AI, I did want to take a look at the Dow. I haven't taken a look at the Dow Jones with you guys. You're welcome, John. I haven't taken a look at the Dow Jones with you guys in a long time. Okay. Take a look at this Dow Jones. Now, let's get off the price indicators just for a moment, because we can revisit that in a second. But you can see we're pushing at, we're technically, I guess, at new all-time highs. We're pushing up towards $40,000. Now, one of the things that I've been pointing out on this chart, and I forget if I've drawn this in a monthly, a 2-month, or 3-month. Did I draw this on a 3-month? I think I drew this on a 3-month. One of the things that I've pointed out on this chart, and I've been pointing out for a long time, are the negative divergences present on the relative strength index. And it's a great example of how negative divergences, while it's a huge caution flag, especially on higher time frames, it's nothing that needs to play out immediately as soon as you see it, but it's something to be very cautious of moving forward. On these very high time frames, okay, on the Dow Jones, and in this case I'm looking at the 3-month, you can see the relative strength index is decreasing in value, okay? Just because we've broken this trend line here doesn't all of a sudden mean the negative divergences have been invalidated. It simply means the downward area of resistance has been invalidated, but we're still printing lower highs. Now, all the while this has been taking place, price has actually on the Dow Jones been going higher. This is a huge warning sign that yes, even though we are continuing to go higher, and I still anticipate prices to continue to move higher this year, this is going to be signs of trouble to come in the future, okay? It doesn't matter who's president of the United States. It doesn't matter who's in Congress. It doesn't matter who's in charge, excuse me, of the Federal Reserve. This chart is telling you everything that you need to know in terms of continued weakness that will likely play out in this chart. And it's further signs of why I say melt up before melt down. This is something we'll come back to, but I don't want to focus on the negative for now because there's way too much positive that will continue to play out in these charts. Anything else that I want to take a look at here? Thank you for everyone new tuning in. Appreciate you guys checking out the channel at an irregular time. At least for now it's an irregular time, but like I said at the top, I do plan to institute some different times, and more so towards 5:30 in the morning, closer to 5:30 in the morning. I wanted to take a look at Matic because Matic is expressing a degree of weakness. It's been falling in market cap value as of recent. Not holding up as well as I would have liked. We've got to turn this area of support into resistance here at 75 cents. Not really liking the weakness, or not really, liking the weakness that I'm seeing here. Now, don't lose track of the fact we're still forming higher highs. Well, we're forming higher lows here, okay? You can see a low, a high, a low. This was not a higher high, okay? But this is a higher low. So we've got the higher lows coming in. I would have liked to have seen us, truth be told, I would have liked to have seen the price at least retain the 75-cent region. So we'll have to see how much relative strength Matic has moving forward. But for now, I'm not liking the weakness within this chart that I'm seeing. On the weekly, let's take a look at the price indicators. Yeah, a decent amount of weakness there. I'm a little surprised, I'll be honest with you guys. I thought that 75 cents would have held up. This was a strong runner here back in early 2023. I mean, we bottomed all the way. You know, the interesting thing about Matic is Polygon Matic had actually bottomed prior to Bitcoin bottoming. You can see that we bottomed in June of 2022, whereas Bitcoin had bottomed, I believe, in November of 2022. And we ran all the way up from 30 cents to $1.50. Okay, crazy run. But since then, it really hasn't been doing much. There's been a lot of tokens that are just, we're waiting for that big movement to come in for Bitcoin. And again, I just want to highlight that as nice as it is to see some of the runs we saw yesterday, I'm not getting overly excited until, number one, we get above $68,000 and hold that level. But really, you're not going to see your altcoins really have a strong run until Bitcoin is up in this area. We need Bitcoin to get up into this area, guys. Once we start to get up into this area, that's when you're going to see Bitcoin dominance start to really decrease, and we're going to start to see some huge runs in the altcoins. Okay. Well, guys, I think that is going to do it for today's live stream. I will be back tomorrow on Friday. I might be back at an earlier time tomorrow. So make sure you click that bell icon for all notifications to know when I go live each and every single weekday. But until next time, let's all spread awareness. Let's carry the education forward. Take care, guys.